Hello, and welcome to the wrap-up of September. We got some things to talk about this month. Let me preface this by saying this is the most books that I have read in 1 month. However, if you saw my vlogs, if you've seen any of the vlogs that have come out so far, you know that Sufferathon had me reading a lot of stuff. So a couple are graphic novels and a couple are short stories, things like that. There was children's books in here. So just let's all take a breath before we see what these numbers are. But what we're going to do is what we have done so far since I started tracking this way is we're going to look at the stats just for September first. And then for the maps that show the countries of the world and the states, we will look at the whole year, which for me, that's just June, July, August, and September. So the last 4 months is what we're going to look at on there. Okay, I'm going to start right here and then move around as we go. So September, over here to the side, you can see I have read 41 books in the month of September. Again, like I said, just keep in mind, it was a lot of reading, but it was maybe not as much as 41 sounds. I don't know why I'm trying to make this sound any better. It was 41 books, and that was a lot of reading that I did in September. So let's hope that things slow down. Didn't I say that every month so far? I'm really going to do it. All right, so we're going to start here with the genres. As you can see, overwhelmingly, I had fantasy and mystery books. So 15 fantasy and 8 mystery, which means 36% of what I read was fantasy and 19.5% was mystery. Next was sci-fi and then romance. So generally speaking, that's probably my top 4 genres that I read in anyway. But I had 1 nonfiction. I had 1 superhero, which was probably one of the graphic novels. I had 1 humor, 1 lit RPG, because I only read 1 of Carl's, Dungeon Crawler Carl, during this month. So just a smattering of things, but mainly those same top 4 that I read usually. Over here for publication year, nothing is new or jumping out, except I read a lot from 2023. 14% of the books were from 2023 and 7% were from 2019. And then I have 2020. So the same number for 19, 21, and 22. But for some reason, 2020 had 1 more. But then 23 was the highest. It's easier to see the years over here. I know I'm blocking things, but I can look and see that 1969 was my oldest book, The Andromeda Strain. And then my most recent book would have been Somewhere Beyond the Sea, which I seem to have read them back to back, which is pretty cool. The oldest and the newest on my list. I did have another 2024 book that I read this month, which is Funny Story, and I didn't know that even came out in 2024. But anyway, so 2 books from this year, but my book for this month was Somewhere Beyond the Sea. So that's the new one that I read. And then my oldest was 1969. I can stay up here at the top now as we look at these, but our audience was mostly adult. 32 of the books were adult, and 6 were YA and 3 were middle grade. So the vast majority was adults, which is what I normally read. The vast majority also, 34 of them were novels, 4 graphic novels, 1 manga, and 2 short stories. So there was a lot of novels. 33 of them were on audiobook, 5 paperback, 1 ebook, and 2 hardcovers. And most of those, I probably, even if I had the physical book or read them on paperback or hardback, I also had the audiobook as well. So I probably did listen to parts of some of these other books at least. But anyway, my series is 1 is completed up to the publication. So I'm all caught up. Another one got completed totally. And then I read 9 standalones and 29 in progress series. So some of those are series that I had already read and have been tracking because a lot of them were my 50 before 50 books. Some of those are new series that I'm going to be starting. So the way we find out if they're new series or not is to come over here. This tells you the name of the series and the number that it was. So 14 of these from the series are book ones. So it says that total, I have a 29 in progress. So 14 of those were book ones, which means 15 of them were not. So half, I don't know that that's a good stat or not, but we have half. Our publishers, let's see about independent. We have 1 independent and 3 self-published. So not a ton this time. There was probably a few more that might have been independent, and I haven't looked them up to know yet. So I've written the publishing name out there, but it's definitely not a name that I've heard before. So it could be one of the independent publishing houses that I just haven't looked up yet. So that stat could change a little bit in the future. But 10 of them are Penguin, and they almost all specifically came from Berkeley. I had a lot that were published by Berkeley this time. And then I had a few Macmillans. Those were from Tor. So anyway, that doesn't exactly matter, except usually these numbers, the self-published and indie published, are higher, and I'm a little bit sad that they're not. I am really close to in the middle, halfway between new to me and read from before for my authors. So that's nice. And then for some reason we have the type down here again, which is the same as the format. I fixed one of these up here, but I didn't know that I needed to fix this one. So anyway, it has not been fixed. And then the only LGBTQIA rep that I had was a main characters that was in Somewhere Beyond the Sea. Okay, and I want to block the US map for now. So this is what the world map looks like. Again, we have another sad one England. Well, not one. It's more than one because it's not quite all the way to 1. And then the US, which is apparently at 19. So still, I need to work on where my books are set. But let's look at the whole year. Well, first let's look at the US for this month. So they're kind of all spread out everywhere from Washington to Florida, California to New York. We've even got a Vermont up here. So there's lots of places that the books have been set in the U.S. California is the highest, apparently, with 5. And then the lowest will be anything that's got this lightest color, like Vermont. And then we've got Illinois, Kentucky, and New York that fall in between those two things. So the map looks more spread out for the U.S. for this month. So let me go put all the books in here, and let's see what these maps look like now. Okay, so we do have quite a few more countries that are on here lit up as purple. We do still have 50 books in the United States that have been set there out of all the ones I've read. So, but I do have at least a smattering of other countries around here. Okay, and then let's look and see what the U.S. looks like. So we have a lot more of these filled out now than we did before. We do have still the most in California, followed by New York and Texas, but then all the way down to this lightest color, like Ohio, Tennessee, Maine, those are just 1 there. And then Kentucky, North Carolina, Florida, Colorado, those have a little bit darker, so they're a little bit further up the thing. So that's it. I mean, the states are definitely still really spread out, but at least they're getting more fuller. I don't know. The countries are still looking real sad over here. So I'm hoping that one of the things I'm going to do when I start slowing down, because a lot of times when I'm trying to read so many books so quickly, I mean, we can talk about books like this. When I'm trying to read books really fast, it's easy for me to grab the most popular and the ones that are available on Libby and the ones that I hear about all the time. And those are almost always set in the US, UK, or Canada, which is the reason that the prompts always say, pick a book set outside of the US, the UK, or Canada. And so it's easy to find those books. And it's easy now, easier to find those other books that are outside of here. And I have been getting a lot of recommendations from you guys. It is easier to find authors who live outside the US, UK, and Canada writing books about like sci-fi books that take place or fantasy books that take place in a completely different world. So they maybe live in Morocco or somewhere, but their book is set in outer space. So when I read from the author who's from this place, that's not where the book is set. So it has to be, the setting of the book has to happen there. And in order for that to happen, a lot of times, I feel like anyway, it ends up being historical fiction or literary fiction or nonfiction. And those are all genres that I don't read very often. And so I find it difficult to find books that I want to read in the genres that I want to read and set somewhere outside. That doesn't mean that they don't exist. I know they do. You guys have given me a ton of ideas and recommendations and all that kind of stuff. I just want to be better about every month making sure that I am reading something that is set outside of those places, the normal places or the easy places that I can find in a book. And I don't know if you've noticed on the map, but I still don't even have a book set in Canada yet. And I read like 5 of them before I started tracking this. But then once I've started tracking this, I have not read any. So anyway, that is how September went. If I go back and look at the books that I read this month, I have 3 5 stars in a row, which all came in the first half of the month. So if you saw my wrap up for the first half of the month, that's where all of those books are. And still, I did not add any more 5 stars after that. I have a few 4.5 stars. I was really loving the Sherry Thomas series called Charlotte Holmes. And so Lady Sherlock is what they're called. And I continue to love those. They've just been really good. They're on my 50 before 50 list, and I read 4 of them this month. I also gave 4.5 stars to the next Dungeon Crawler Carl that I read. So those are always good for me to rate high. My son said, I think you give too many books a 4. And I was like, listen, I know I do. So anyway, I'm kind of stuck between giving books 4. I don't want to give them anything else. If they're bad, I want to give them a 3.5. If they're good, I want to give them a 4.5. And then if they're just meh, I want to give them a 4. And that is not a good rating system. I really want to do the call pile system that I know is one of those systems where you enter the numbers and then it tells you what the rating should be based on all these different things. But I need to slow down my reading. I am reading so fast that I am not stopping to take the time to even think about what I have just read and what I might want to rate it before I move on to the next book. So hopefully you will start to see in October that as I am making videos and talking about books, I am talking about them in a much broader way or thinking through my thoughts about them a lot more than I have been in the past. So if you notice that, let me know what you think about it and if you like it better. I mean, I'm sure more information is always better. I'm keeping it spoiler free still, but just more of my thoughts about it. So September as a whole was great. I read too many books because of Suffer-a-thon, and I'm rethinking what next year is going to look like. I've already started brainstorming some ideas for book activities that I'm going to do and readathons that I'm going to participate in and ones that I'm not going to participate in. So I'm already thinking through 2025, and one of my goals is going to be less and more present in what I'm reading. So quality over quantity. And that's what I'm going to be focused on. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you to my new members. I'm going to be doing a shout out video for them in the next video that I film. But thank you guys for the support that you've given me. Even if all you do is watch the videos and like it down below, then that is everything. Thank you so much, and I will see you in my next video. Bye.